Well, it's a beautiful morning at the end of May. It's cooled down a bit, and it's really nice to be still in Nottingham, more or less in the centre of Nottingham, on the side of the tram tracks here between Nottingham Centre and Toton Lane. And as I'm walking along, I noticed a clump of plants here which look sort of pinkish. And as I get close to them, I wonder what they are. And of course, it would have to be a massive, massive clump of bee orchids. And these aren't the only ones here. They're dotted around. And I've never seen a clump of bee orchids like this before. Maybe you have in the Mediterranean around there, but this is utterly amazing to see. It's in full bloom at the moment and the flowers are at their best. And it is quite an incredible and beautiful sight. I've never seen bee orchids like this before, and I came along wondering this morning, will I find any? Will I find any bee orchids? And what a silly question to ask. Maybe I knew that I would all along. But these are Ophrys apifera, and the plants are in full bloom, the flowers are fully open, the three main petals easily visible, with the lip as well. The flower looks like a bee to attract bees, but apparently, according to Simon Pearce in Milan, these plants self-pollinate. Why the plants are so abundant here, I don't know. We'll see how many I find on my walk today. Well, here's another one, a bit shorter and smaller, but no doubt another bee orchid. And yet another clump a few meters away. Again, the plants in incredible full bloom. What a sight. What a surprise. Amazing. See how many I can find around here. Maybe there's a lot. And yet another one a few meters away. Huh. Well, what can you say? Well, I've crossed to the other side of the tram track now, and there's the tram going past, and I'm wondering, with this great abundance of bee orchids here, if they'll be here on the other side of the track as well. And I haven't seen any yet, and these plants do tend to be quite easily visible, and I can't see any. No, nothing but your standard small perennials like oxeye daisies, St John's wort, forget-me-nots, but no bee orchids at this particular location. Well, no luck with bee orchids anywhere else I've searched other than the side of the tram tracks, but here in King's Meadow you can fairly well predict there will be southern marsh orchids at this time of year, and there are probably about half a dozen plants, most of them quite small, but they're clearly not early marsh orchids because the leaves are thinner and the lips are not bent back. But here's one that looks like a spotted orchid, a common spotted orchid, and it's got wide leaves and it's a bit later in flower than the southern marsh orchid, so I think this is probably a bona fide common spotted orchid, though I do know that there are hybrids present at this site. I have to confess that the flower does look a bit like a southern marsh orchid, so this could be a hybrid, though I wouldn't like to count on that. Now here's a plant, unusually for this site, that is growing in the open in sunshine. And this is the first time I've seen one of these orchids, and I think it's probably a southern marsh, growing in these conditions. It doesn't have spotted leaves. Yeah, I think this is probably a southern marsh orchid. Though plants of this size, it's very difficult to tell, and it does have some of its petals folded back, which is a little unusual if it's a southern marsh orchid. But anyway, we know there's a mixture of orchids on this site, but sadly I wasn't able to find any more bee orchids at all. But hey, who cares? I found massive numbers growing by the tram track, so I'm really pleased. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and thanks very much for watching. Thank you. And sure enough, there are more on the other side of the tracks, growing in some numbers in lawns outside these commercial buildings, which include Experian. So that's a wonderful find yet again. Why are bee orchids suddenly appearing at this site?